The beliefs that became your cage.
Welcome to Awareness with Vanessa, where we question everything, observe more, and explore the ideas shaping consciousness and the human experience. I'm Vanessa Klinger, and this week we continue our journey through the secret architecture of the simulation with an episode titled The Wall. Last week we explored the observer, the part of us capable of witnessing our thoughts, our emotions, our reactions, without automatically becoming them. But once the observer begins paying attention, something else becomes visible: the walls. Not physical walls, but the invisible boundaries built through inherited beliefs, fear, conditioning, disappointment, and the stories we've accepted about who we are and what is possible. Most of these walls were never built overnight. They were constructed one experience, one conclusion, one belief at a time. Today, we're going to explore how those walls are formed, why they feel so real, and what begins to happen the moment we question the first brick. Let's begin.
We all have that one invisible boundary we swore we'd never cross.
Yeah.
Like a rule about who we are, what we can handle, or, what we are actually allowed to achieve in life.
Right. It feels like this massive, immovable, physical object just totally blocking your path.
Exactly. But I mean, what if you didn't actually build that wall? What if you just inherited the bricks?
Oh, that is such a good way to frame it.
Because if you were with us for our last deep dive, we started looking at the concept of the observer.
Which is just completely foundational to all of this.
It really is. We talked about that profound shift that happens when you stop automatically identifying with every single thought and emotion.
Right. When you just start watching them instead.
Yeah.
You step back.
Yeah. And the moment you do that, you start noticing the architecture of these invisible structures that have been quietly shaping your entire life.
And honestly, noticing that architecture is where the real work actually begins.
Oh, for sure.
Because it's one thing to realize, that you are not your thoughts. But it's an entirely different thing to look at the boundaries you've been living inside of and realize they aren't objective reality.
They're constructed.
Exactly. They are built. And today's deep dive is all about understanding that specific construction, which is what Vanessa calls the wall.
Okay, let's unpack this. How do these invisible structures actually get built?
Well,
Because I think the temptation is to imagine some singular, horrific event where, a giant concrete wall drops from the sky and traps us.
right, like one big trauma.
Yeah, but that's not really how human psychology operates, is it?
No, not at all. It's actually much more insidious than that. The wall doesn't drop from the sky. It is constructed super gradually,
Brick by brick.
literally brick by brick over years or even decades. And the materials we use to build it are things we all encounter every single day.
Like what? What are the bricks made of?
We are talking about inherited beliefs,
Mhm.
family expectations. We use the raw materials of childhood experiences, fear, anxiety,
Rejection,
massive amounts of rejection and disappointment. We take cultural and religious conditioning and we use all of that as the foundation.
Wow. So what holds all those bricks together?
The mortar holding it all together is the repeated stories. The stories we tell ourselves about our identity, our worth, our safety, and ultimately what we fundamentally believe is possible for us.
So it's a progression. I mean, we don't just wake up one Tuesday with a belief that we are unworthy or unsafe.
No, it takes time.
It's more like a software loop, right? Like you write a line of code early in your life to handle a specific bug, a specific moment of pain.
Yes, exactly that.
But then that code just keeps running in the background forever, and eventually it bloats the entire operating system until it dictates how the whole machine functions.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it. There is a very precise biological and psychological mechanism at play here.
Walk me through it.
Okay, so it always starts with an experience. Let's say you are 7 years old and you express a really vulnerable emotion and you are met with ridicule or coldness from a caregiver.
Oh, yeah, that hurts.
It's awful.
Yeah.
And that is the experience. So your brain, which is basically a meaning-making machine, immediately draws conclusion to make sense of that pain.
It tries to solve the problem.
Right. You decide, totally unconsciously, that showing emotion leads to rejection.
So you write a patch for the bug. You create a rule to ensure you never have to feel that specific pain again.
Yes. And over time, as you repeatedly apply that rule, that conclusion hardens into a belief.
A belief is just a hardened conclusion.
Exactly. A belief is simply a conclusion that your nervous system has stopped questioning. And once you hold that belief, it generates expectations.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Right. You walk into a new relationship expecting that if you show emotion, you will be rejected.
And those expectations ultimately dictate your choices.
Precisely. You choose partners who are emotionally unavailable because, well, it feels familiar. Or you shut down the second things get intimate.
Wow. So the experience became a conclusion.
Yep.
The conclusion became a belief.
Uh-huh.
The belief became an expectation, and the expectation became your perceived reality. You just built a massive section of the wall.
You did. But wait, I want to...
Actually, let me push back on that for a second.
Sure.
If we are the ones building this, if we are the ones writing this bloatware code, why do we completely forget we laid the bricks in the first place?
That's a great question.
Because it feels so intensely out of our control. It feels a lot heavier than just a line of bad programming.
It does. And that is because of how the nervous system adapts to familiarity. The longer you live within a certain belief system, the more your nervous system accepts it as the absolute baseline for survival.
Familiarity just becomes the default.
Right. Familiarity to the human brain feels like safety.
Mm.
Even if the belief makes you absolutely miserable, it is predictable.
And the brain loves predictability.
It will always prioritize predictability over happiness. So eventually, you just stop recognizing the wall as a coping mechanism or limitation.
The illusion of objective truth sets in.
Exactly. You stop saying, I have a belief that I shouldn't show emotion, and you just start saying, well, this is just how the world is. People will always let you down.
You forget you're wearing tinted glasses, and you just assume the whole world is actually red.
Yes.
I mean, I see this constantly in everyday life. We all say things that sound like empirical, objective facts, but they are literally just bricks in our own walls.
Oh, for sure. What kind of phrases stand out to you when you think about that?
Oh, they're everywhere. Things like, I'm too old, or it's too late for me.
Yeah, that's a big one.
You hear people say, well, people like me don't receive opportunities like that. Or the classic, I tried before, so there's no point in trying again.
The career ones are rough.
Totally. Then there are the relationship ones, which are usually incredibly rigid, like, I can't trust anyone, or I should just accept whatever I can get.
That one is heartbreaking.
It is. But the one that really breaks my heart every time I hear it is, wanting more will only lead to disappointment.
Wow. Yeah, that is heavy.
Oh.
And they all culminate in, like, the ultimate brick, the one that seals the entire perimeter.
Which is?
This is simply who I am.
Oh, man. Yeah.
When you say that, you are taking a behavioral pattern, a coping mechanism, and cementing it into your core identity.
You become the wall.
Exactly. But this raises a really important question, and it's a place where we need to tread with immense compassion. We have to look at why we built these walls in the first place.
Right. I'm really glad we are pausing here, because it is incredibly easy to hear all this, look at the limitations in your life, and immediately spiral into self-blame.
Which is the last thing we want.
Yeah, you start thinking, great, I ruined my own life with my terrible mindset. If I just thought differently, everything would be perfect. And that sounds dangerously close to blaming people for their own trauma.
We need to be explicitly clear on this. You should never, ever blame yourself for beliefs you formed while you were just trying to survive.
Thank you for saying that.
We are not suggesting that every hardship you've faced is simply the result of a bad mindset. Real, devastating trauma happens. Systemic issues exist.
Poverty, marginalization, abuse.
Yes. These are not illusions. The wall was not built out of foolishness or weakness. It was built for protection.
Right. Like if you grew up in a chaotic, unpredictable environment, developing a belief of, say, hyper-independence wasn't a personality flaw.
No, it was a brilliant, necessary survival strategy.
You basically built a bunker to survive a war.
Exactly. Those bricks may have been the very things that helped you survive profound uncertainty, loss, or danger. They served a vital, life-saving purpose.
So what's the problem then?
The problem is not that you built the bunker. The problem is the turning point that happens years later.
When the war ends.
Yes. A belief that once offered you necessary protection seamlessly transitions into a prison when it continues directing your life long after the original danger has passed.
So the war is over, but you are still living underground, eating canned rations, and wondering why you can't feel the sun.
That is exactly it. You are applying a trauma-based survival strategy to a present-day situation that only requires presence and connection.
Oh, wow.
And this is where the wires get incredibly crossed for most of us, because we confuse the feeling of hitting the wall with our intuition.
Oh, that is a huge trap. I hear that all the time.
Right.
Yeah, I know so many people who say, well, my intuition is telling me not to trust this new partner, or my intuition says I shouldn't take this new job.
But is it actually intuition?
That's the thing. How do we actually distinguish between deep, genuine discernment and just like pure anxiety masquerading as wisdom?
It really comes down to the physical frequency of the feeling. We have been so conditioned to think that every uncomfortable sensation in our body is an alarm bell indicating objective danger.
But it's not.
No. Intuition and fear operate on vastly different frequencies. Intuition is typically very quiet, grounded, and clear. It feels like a deep, still knowing. Fear and anxiety, on the other hand, are loud, frantic, urgent, and usually looping. We have to realize that sometimes fear is not predicting the future. Sometimes it is merely repeating the past.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. A belief does not become true simply because it has been repeated for years.
I would emphasize that point. Repetition creates familiarity in the neural pathways.
Yeah.
It does not create empirical truth.
So just because my mind has recited the script, I am not enough 10,000 times since middle school, that doesn't make it a fact.
Not at all. It just makes it a heavily trafficked neurological highway.
Okay, so if we accept that we built this psychological bunker to protect ourselves, and we recognize that our loud anxiety is often just repeating the past,
Right.
how does the mind manage to keep us locked inside this structure for decades? If it's just old code, why is it so incredibly hard to rewrite?
What's fascinating here is how Vanessa's philosophical framework of the simulation becomes an incredibly powerful lens to answer that exact question.
Okay, I love this.
Now, we're using simulation language strictly as a philosophical metaphor for human conditioning and programming, not as established physics.
Right, just a lens for behavior.
Exactly. But the biological parallels are stunning. Within this programmed reality, your brain acts almost exactly like a rendering engine in a video game.
Okay, let's dig into that analogy. Because in a video game, to save processing power, the game only renders the room you are currently looking at.
Right. The rest of the digital world doesn't technically exist visually until you turn your character's camera toward it.
It's just code until you look at it.
Precisely. And your brain does something remarkably similar to conserve cognitive energy. It uses predictive coding. It renders the reality you expect to see based on your core programming.
Meaning your core beliefs.
Yes. And the mechanism it uses to do this is a hyper-aggressive form of confirmation bias. The simulation reflects your code back to you.
So you basically unconsciously collect evidence that supports what you already believe.
And you completely filter out any data that challenges it.
We've all heard of confirmation bias, but when you frame it as a rendering engine, it makes so much sense.
It really does.
If my core programming, my wall, is built on the belief that everyone eventually abandons me, my brain is going to physically reward me with dopamine when I spot evidence of that.
Yes, because it proves your predictive model was correct.
Right, so I will hyperfixate on the friend who forgot to text me back. But my rendering engine won't even load the data of the partner who has consistently shown up for me for 5 years.
And the brain isn't doing this to torture you. It's doing it to maintain order. If your brain had to constantly reevaluate every single belief every time new data arrived, you would be cognitively exhausted.
You wouldn't be able to function.
Exactly. So the wall sustains itself by filtering out the contradictory data. It acts as an algorithm, constantly serving you a feed of experiences that validate your deepest insecurities.
Oh, that is so bleak, but so true.
The wall may feel permanent only because we have stopped questioning what it is made of. The code relies entirely on your automatic, unconscious compliance.
It needs you to run on autopilot. It requires you to be like a non-player character in your own life, just reacting to the algorithm's feed without ever looking at the source code.
That's exactly it.
But if our minds are basically filtering out reality to protect these walls, how do we ever notice the wall in the first place? I mean, it feels like we'd be permanently trapped in our own blind spot.
That is exactly where we circle back to the absolute necessity of the observer. Embodying the observer is how you step out of the algorithm.
Okay.
Because when you are fully identified with your programming, there is no space between you and the wall. You believe you are the wall.
But the moment you observe a thought, instead of just thinking it, you introduce a glitch in the programming.
You create space.
You create a gap between the thought and the truth. You start to see, oh, I am having a thought that I am a failure, but that thought is just an old line of code. It is not the ultimate truth of who I am.
Yes. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, you are creating space across multiple dimensions. You create space between the feeling of panic and your automatic response to it. You feel the anxiety rise. But instead of shutting down the relationship, you just observe the physical sensation.
Right. You create space between the past and the present. You recognize that this current trigger is not the trauma of 20 years ago.
Exactly. You create space between the belief and your blind obedience to it.
You create space between the wall and the person standing before it. You finally realize you are the awareness looking at the bricks. You are not the bricks themselves.
And that separation is the genesis of freedom.
So what does this all mean in practice? Because I think a lot of people hit this point of awareness, they see the wall, and they immediately try to tear it down with what I call the sledgehammer of toxic positivity.
Oh, yeah. That never works.
Right. Like if I notice a brick that says, I am unworthy, am I supposed to just force myself to look in the mirror and scream, I'm a billionaire genius who deserves the universe 50 times a day?
Please don't.
Because honestly, that just sounds exhausting.
It is exhausting, and it is usually entirely ineffective. Questioning a belief does not require immediately replacing it with forced positivity,
Why doesn't work?
because aggressive affirmations often backfire. Your nervous system interprets the sudden, unbelievable positive thought as a lie,
Oh, that makes sense.
which it then flags as a threat to your established reality.
Yeah.
It just creates more internal friction. The first act of freedom is not destruction. It is simply becoming willing to investigate the wall.
I love that shift in perspective. It takes so much pressure off. We aren't demanding immediate transformation. We are just putting on our detective hats.
Yeah, exactly.
We are just investigating the architecture. So let's talk about how to actually do that. If our listener bumps into one of these limiting beliefs today, how do they investigate it without just bouncing off the wall?
Well, we don't need a massive list of interrogations. We just need a few surgical questions to disrupt the algorithm.
Yeah.
And the most powerful place to start is origins.
Okay.
Ask yourself, where did this belief actually come from?
Right, like trace the code back to the original programmer.
Exactly. Did I consciously choose to believe that money is the root of all evil? Or that I have to be perfect to be loved?
Or was it handed to me? Was it taught to me by a parent or a culture that was just passing down their own unexamined bricks?
Yes. Another good one is, when did I first accept it? And once you identify the origin, ask the critical context question. Was this belief formed during a state of fear, pain, or survival?
Oh, wow. If the answer is yes, then you immediately know that the belief's primary function was to keep you safe, not to tell you the objective truth about reality.
That distinction alone changes everything.
It really does. You can say to yourself, this isn't the truth. This is just a shield I picked up in a battle 20 years ago.
Exactly. But if we want to really disrupt the rendering engine, we have to look at the cost of carrying that shield today.
Right. Is it still true today? What evidence challenges it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what has this belief prevented me from attempting? But this next one is perhaps the most paradigm-shifting question you can ask.
What is it?
Who might I become without this belief?
Oh, let's really dig into that one, because that requires genuine imagination.
It does.
If you woke up tomorrow and this specific line of code was magically wiped from your hard drive, how would your day play out differently?
Yes.
Like, if the belief that I am too old to start over was just gone, how would you walk into a room? What emails would you finally send? How would your posture change?
What you are doing when you ask those questions is forcing your brain to render a new environment.
You're hacking the engine.
You really are. You are bypassing the confirmation bias by voluntarily imagining a reality where the wall doesn't exist.
You aren't forcing yourself to believe you are already successful. You are simply exploring the space outside the perimeter.
Exactly. You ask, what would I do differently today if I stopped treating this old survival strategy as an objective fact?
It's brilliant because it doesn't demand that you tear the wall down immediately. It just demands curiosity.
Yes.
It invites you to step out of the bunker just for a moment and look around.
And if we view this through the simulation framework, this act of curiosity is the ultimate hack.
Oh, so?
Because if our internal walls are constructed of inherited frequencies, old survival scripts, and outdated trauma responses, then the very act of questioning them is profound.
Oh, because it separates you from them.
Right. The moment you examine a belief, you prove definitively that you are not the wall itself.
You are the consciousness observing the wall. Your awareness is the glitch that begins to free you from the programming.
The architecture of the wall relies entirely on your unconscious, automatic participation. So the moment you become conscious, the mortar begins to dry out.
The structure begins to lose its grip on your reality.
It really does.
Which brings us to a really grounded, realistic core takeaway for today.
Yeah.
This wall, this structure you've lived inside for years or decades, it is probably not going to fall all at once.
No, it took a lifetime to build. It might
Yeah.
take a long time to dismantle.
And that is perfectly okay, because awareness gives you the one thing you didn't have before, the ability to stop adding new bricks.
You can halt construction today. You can stop being the passive victim of your conditioning and become the active, curious observer of it.
So we want to leave you with a challenge, something to mull over on your own. Sometime today, we encourage you to identify just one belief that has been dictating the boundaries of your life.
Just one single brick.
Right. Maybe it's the belief that you aren't creative, or that you have to earn your rest, or that it's too late for you. Find it, look at it, and examine it using those questions we discussed.
But do it completely without judgment. Don't try to smash it. Just observe the architecture.
And investigate what it's made of. You might be incredibly surprised to find that the mortar holding it all together is already crumbling.
Yeah, you really might.
Let's bring Vanessa back for her closing reflection.
The wall was never built in a day. It was built quietly, one disappointment, one fear, one conclusion at a time, until one day we stopped calling it a wall. We called it reality. But awareness changes something. The wall may still be standing, yet once you can see it, you no longer have to obey. You don't have to tear it all down today. Start with one brick, one belief, one story you've mistaken for truth. Ask yourself, where did this come from? Does it still belong to me? Because freedom doesn't begin when every wall disappears. It begins the moment awareness becomes stronger than the story that built it. Next week, we continue the Secret Architecture of the Simulation series with Week 9, the transfer window. What happens when you've outgrown the old reality but haven't fully stepped into the new one? And on August 8th, Level 8 arrives, continuing the journey that began with the human experience and Let Us Make Man. Thank you for spending this time with me. Until next time, question everything, observe more, live aware.